Well, good afternoon, everyone. We'd like to welcome you to the 2025-26 new coordinator training from the California Department of Education. We're here to provide some guidance, some support, and hopefully teach you a few things that will help you be successful in your new role. That said, my name is Paul Valencia, and I will be your producer for today's webinar, which is a focus on assessment systems and TOMS, or the Test Operations Management System. If attendees do not have access to the system or tools being presented, coordinators should notify and work with their primary LEA CAASPP or ELPAC coordinator or their superintendent to ensure the appropriate access is granted. All right, before we hand it off to our presenters, let's go over a few housekeeping items. First, all participants are muted. Therefore, in order to submit any questions you may have during the presentation, please use the Q&A feature in Zoom. We are not using the chat feature for this webinar. We are only using the Q&A feature. Second, a copy of today's resource guide was sent to you via email. And if you haven't received it or you need to access it again, I'm going to go ahead and place a link in the chat. And then you're going to click on that link here. You can see. And it's going to take you to a folder where you can download the guide or make a copy into your own Google Drive. Just keep in mind that there's no edit access from the link we shared, so you'll have to save your own copy, okay? And lastly, we will be recording today's presentation. An archive of this presentation will be available to view on the upcoming and on-demand trainings webpage on the CAASPP and ELPAC website. And with that, I'd like to introduce today's expert panelists. We have with us today Jadine Jones from Sacramento County Office of Education and Joe Valero from Fresno County Superintendent of Schools.
Thank you, Paul, and welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I am Jadine Jones from the Sacramento County Office of Education, and I'm excited to be here with you this afternoon and co-presenting with the legend, Joe Valero. So to get us started today, we're going to go through the agenda that aligns with the success criteria for the webinar. So let's take a look at the things that you'll be able to do at the end of each section. You will be able to understand systems that support CAASPP and ELPAC, take a deeper look within TOMS, learn about student test assignments, understand the process of setting up windows in TOMS, and get answers to your questions. So we'd like to take a moment to share an update regarding the 2025-26 new coordinator trainings. Over a year ago, we moved away from the full-day sessions in favor of a more favorable, flexible, accessible format, 11 webinars spread across the year. Each webinar will be recorded and made available asynchronously, allowing coordinators to access the content at their convenience. This new structure is designed to provide timely, targeted support throughout the year, helping coordinators get the information they need when they need it. We anticipate that this expanded webinar structure will enhance the overall learning experience while offering great flexibility to fit into your busy schedules. The following pieces are included in the new coordinator training as asynchronous or on-demand pre-work. These are optional resources, and they're intended for those who may need a little additional background to help enhance the 11 new coordinator webinars. Together, they offer a complete package, flexible learning experience for new coordinators. The pre-work includes 2 asynchronous pre-work videos included with the new coordinator training video playlist. Resources which cover agencies, websites, manuals, flyers, and other deliverables to support coordinators. The coordinator role, which covers the LEA coordinator, as well as site level coordinator and test administrator levels. There's additional pre-work, from past trainings. Assessment 101 videos give you the who, what, when, why, and how of each assessment. And the introductions to SIRS trainings, which take place in the summer or fall. All of these are great resources, and I highly recommend that you check them out. And then we have the new coordinator convenings this fall, starting in September, just a few days away. These are new and exciting. These 3 in-person meetings will be held in Northern California, Central, and Southern parts of California. They are designed to support and guide brand new CAASPP and ELPAC coordinators. They are focused on providing essential knowledge, practical tools, and networking opportunities. Registration is now open, and email invitations were sent out to coordinators, and just recently it was also included in the assessment spotlight email. So take a moment, make yourself a note to go register for one of those. You're not going to want to miss it. The rest of the new coordinator training program is a series of monthly webinars designed to give just-in-time information. That's where we are today. These 11 webinars are spread across the year. The full list of sessions is in the resource guide, but let's review today what is coming up in the next few months. Today we are focusing on assessment systems and the test operations management system, better known as TOMS. In September, there'll be a webinar on accessibility. And in October, we'll cover practice tests, training tests, and interim assessments, all of which will help students and staff prepare for testing and gain familiarity with the testing program, the testing platform, and become more comfortable with the different types of test items, and then just understand how to navigate within the system. So before we jump into the topic for today, we want to remind everyone about a few excellent resources for coordinators. There are links to these resources in your resource guide, so make sure that you check out that resource guide. The first are the coordinator checklists. Boy, are these valuable. There's one checklist for each program for LEA coordinators, as well as checklists for other roles like site coordinators. Each checklist includes an extensive list of the tasks and activities that are a part of your new role. These tasks are broken out by month in which the task usually occurs, but some months the task may fall into other months depending on your local schedules and planning. They are created in Microsoft Word, where you can customize them to better meet the needs of your LEA. And then the second excellent resource I want to share with you, the Coordinator How-To Hub. This is a page on the CAASPP ELPAC website that collects all existing how-to resources and organizes them by time and topic. So if you're stuck, you're going to want to check out that Coordinator How-To Hub, bookmark it so that you can go back to it. And you might see someone that you recognize on one of those videos. So we want to spend some time today talking about the systems that support CAASPP and ELPAC administrations. In your role as the LEA coordinator, you will become familiar with several different systems. These systems store your data, they communicate data with statewide systems, and are specific to the CAASPP and ELPAC systems. So let's spend a few minutes talking about these systems. Right, your local student information system, or often referred to as a SIS. It stores and tracks local student data for all students enrolled in your district. This system contains information about their demographics, program participation, discipline, attendance, English language acquisition status, known as ELAS, their enrollment status, including the start date in your ELA, course enrollment, and much more. You can tell this is an important place. Each LEA designates staff members to make changes or to edit data in your local student information system. Some examples of a student information systems include ARIES, PowerSchool, or you may have another system that your LEA uses. Most LEAs have CAASPP administrators. CAASPP is the California Department of Education. It's the California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data System. These CAASPP administrators pull specific files from their student information system and load it into CAASPP. So let's talk about CAASPP a little bit more. For more information about how to integrate your student information system vendors and TOMS, consult the resource guide. So CAASPP, the California Longitudinal Pupil Achievement Data System, is a statewide system that collects information about students that includes demographic information, program participation, discipline, attendance, ELAS, enrollment status, course enrollments. Sound familiar? CAASPP is the official source of information for students attending and staff working in California public schools. It also serves as the official data source for funding and other important data releases. LEAs submit data several times per year based on the established deadlines. Maintaining accurate student data in CAASPP is critical. It is extremely important to ensure correct student demographics are captured during the student testing window. If you aren't your LEA's CAASPP coordinator, make sure to find out who is. You want to be friends with that person. It will be critical that you and that person, the CAASPP coordinator, coordinate tasks and activities throughout the process, especially when the testing windows open or about to open and throughout the testing windows. So let's talk a little bit about other local data systems, specifically your special education system. The system that is used by approximately 80% of LEAs is called SACE, Special Education Information System. But other systems are used in California as well. These data systems store information about students who have IEPs, as well as the type of supports and accommodations for students, which include assessments students should participate in. For example, alternate assessments. How special education data gets from the local special education data system into CAASPP can vary from LEA to LEA. It's important to find out who uploads information into CAASPP, who uploads the special education information into CAASPP. Certain testing information should go through CAASPP, and other information is directly uploaded into the Test Operations Management System, TOMS. For example, student test settings, designated supports and accommodations are loaded directly into TOMS by selecting individual test settings for the student and uploading test settings into a file or group of students. This process can only be completed by a coordinator. ETS has developed a test setting application programming interface, or an API, that will allow student information systems and special education data systems to integrate with the database of student accessibility resources that will be used by TOMS. The API is an alternative to the existing manual process for assigning test settings by a coordinator. If you are interested in learning more about this process, reach out to your student information system and your special education data system vendor to see if this is an option for your LEA. Okay. Ooh. So how many of you have heard the phrase garbage in, garbage out? If you aren't keeping your local data clean and accurate, the data you submit to CalPADS won't be accurate. Funding decisions can be at risk when the data doesn't reflect the true situation of your LEA. Inaccurate data is in your SIS, your Student Information System, and can also lead to inaccurate data being reported on the test results for California Assessment website, also known as TRCA, and the California School Dashboard, and the California Accountability System. All of this data is available to the general public. It is imperative to have clean, valid, and accurate data. Cannot emphasize this point strongly enough. Every LEA has their own way of ensuring accurate data for assessments. Your job is to make sure that you understand the process at your LEA and that there are procedures in place for periodic data audits. You will want to ensure that your data is clean before and during your testing window. It is extremely important that your data is clean before your testing window opens. Strongly emphasize that point. Don't let data cleanup become an emergency. If a problem is found with the local student data, know who to contact at your LEA and get that issue resolved as quickly as possible. So just want to share a little bit, take a minute here, take a deep breath, and maybe reach out to my friend Joe about how to maintain accurate data and the importance of having this clean data. And just want to share with you other parts or other data that's extremely important is our students that are foster and homeless youth, making sure that information is accurate. Your English language acquisition status, your demographic status. Those groups are reported into that California dashboard. So you want to make sure this information's clean and right and up to date. So Joe, is there anything you'd like to share about a process or suggestion regarding keeping clean data?
Yeah, no, so you actually said something right now that triggered, right? Sometimes we think triggered is a bad word, but just,
Oh.
got me thinking right here where it's, you were talking about English language acquisition status. And so that's actually one of the call drivers that our colleagues at ETS, that they've been seeing. It's that time of year, right? And so one of the things that, we really want to be mindful of, thinking really right now, this time of year, we're heavy in initial ELPAC testing. And so to your point, Jadine, just being in our systems, and in a few slides, we're going to be talking about some of the reports that are available that we can go over, and we can actually see student demographic information that is coming from CalPADS in TOMS. We'll get to that here in a few slides. But making sure that, we have the proper, and I'm really going to hit this one pretty hard, is that English language acquisition status. In order for a student to be able to test, making sure that, if we're talking initial ELPAC, they have a to be determined. And it's not a one-person job here. This is one of those, who do we need to reach out to? Who are our colleagues and friends inside of our organizations that, hey, does this make sense? Does this look right? Maybe we're reaching out to our EL coordinator colleagues when we're talking about English language acquisition status, or to your point, our foster and homeless liaisons or coordinators within our organizations. We don't want to wait until, it's an emergency, it's last minute. We want to do that ongoing. Better we catch it internally rather than it becomes public and then it's something we can't change later on. So it just looks so different for me in the two different organizations that I've been in so far. In my previous organization, I had a third-party system where some of that student information system was going in, and that was kind of my audit of myself. Going over, it was populating, and at night, overnight, I was able to see, oh my gosh, you know what? I know I reclassified this student. Student is still looking like they're an English learner in our systems, internally. So more than likely, that's also going to be what's happening in CalPads. And if it's happening in CalPads, then we know that's what's going to be reflected in TOMS. So there's no right way to do it. There's no the way to do it. There's just simply multiple ways to do it, whatever works locally. But you're going to want to do it periodically, though. You don't want to do it just one time and have it be right before testing. You want to periodically do it. That way it's not so cumbersome if there are a lot of errors that we need to fix. It's just being fixed over time.
Thank you, Joe. Those are great examples. There's a question asked about what is unclean data. So unclean data is inaccurate data, and wanting to make sure your students that have IEPs are reflected appropriately, or 504s, because that's going to make a difference when you get ready to do those test supports and accommodations. If they don't have it marked that they have an IEP, then they can't get some of those supports. So that's what we're talking about here. So thank you, Joe, for expanding upon that. I greatly appreciate that. Okay, up next, TOMS. And you've heard me say this a couple times so far. So the Test Operations Management System. TOMS receives enrollment and demographic information from CalPads automatically, and it updates nightly. So TOMS is run by ETS and is the system that it opens the door for many other systems for supports with CAASPP and ELPAC testing. So within TOMS, you can manage the CAASPP test window for your LEA. You can order ELPAC test materials. You can enter accessibility resources. You can check demographic characteristics for students, including grade level. That's something that's extremely important to make sure it's accurate and clean. You can check test assignments, parent exemptions, and access secure materials. TOMS provides information to 3 other systems: the TDS, or the Test Delivery System, TIDE, or Test Information Distribution System, and CERS, the California Educator Reporting System. So let's take a quick dive into these systems and explore them a little bit more in detail. And I know we're talking about a lot of acronyms today, so please make sure that you refer to your resource guide. The TDS, or the Test Delivery System, is the system students use to take CAASPP and ELPAC, the online assessments. Based on the information entered into TOMS, the Test Delivery System, or the TDS, delivers the appropriate test to the student. So you can see where having the right grade level makes a huge impact here. When a student logs on to the system, the TDS knows which test the student should receive based on the information that coordinators previously entered and uploaded into TOMS. You can see how important the accuracy of the student's information in TOMS will be, such as grade level, special education status, test assignment, and test settings. Next up is TIDE, the Test Information Distribution Engine. TIDE can be accessed via TOMS and provides information and reports that will help with the monitoring of test administration and completion. This will be really important as we get into the spring and we have a lot of students that we're monitoring in CAASPP. You can access TIDE through TOMS by clicking completion status, and ETS has made this a seamless process. Clicking certain links within TOMS takes you to reports, and you might not even know you're using TIDE. The main purpose here is to help you monitor completion status of testing at multiple levels. In TIDE, you can create completion reports and monitor test administration progress. Please note that these reports may not exactly match the accountability participation rate found in the California School Dashboard. For information about calculations used for the dashboard, please consult the Dashboard Technical Guide. Your link for that is in the resource guide. All of these activities are things you will be doing during testing. And with that being said, there'll be a new coordinator webinar dedicated to this system later on in the year to provide you with information just in time for when you need it. The third system, TOMS, shares information, which is, shares information with the California Educator Reporting System, or CERS. CERS contains individual and aggregate student results for CAASPP and ELPAC interim and summative assessments. In order for teachers and/or test administrators to see student results in CERS, student groups must be assigned to them through a rostering process coordinated by the test coordinators. The LEA coordinator must collaborate closely with site coordinators to ensure that all educators have the necessary access. This rostering process is currently done either with file uploads or through automated rostering available with some student information systems. CERS provides a single location for all student assessment data, whether it's from summative assessments or interim assessments. If you would like more information about the APIs, and if your system supports it, use the link in the resource guide. And then one last thing I want to share for you is to check out, there are lots of resources. Remember I mentioned the Coordinator How-To Hub? There are lots of resources and videos there regarding CERS, and look for upcoming trainings. And now I would like to hand it off to the very knowledgeable Joe Valero.
All right. Thank you, Jadine. Can you see my screen? I'm on the CERS slide right now, right? You can see me transition.
Yes, a deep dive into TOMS. We're
All
ready.
right. Perfect. Thank you, Jadine. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Joe Valero from the Office of the Fresno County Superintendent of Schools. Hoping you're having a great day today. Let's take a deep dive into TOMS. So in this section, we will be reviewing the TOMS at a glance screen. That's when we first log in. Student and user management in TOMS, how to set test administration windows, and reports in TOMS. TOMS might be a complex system for newer coordinators to understand and navigate. Luckily, there are a few ways to get more information about TOMS. Within TOMS, you could select a question mark icon when it appears, and a contextual help box will pop up with some pertinent information about that particular topic. If you need more resources, there are online videos that will help with navigating the TOMS system. There's a link to these resources in your resource guide. The My TOMS at a Glance tab is the first thing you'll see when you log into the system. My TOMS at a Glance updates nightly and displays a variety of reports to support test administration and completion. For example, this tab will include the following helpful features: a notifications callout. When it has a green border, all tasks are complete and you're up to date on all notifications. The notifications callout also has a red border if there are urgent tasks for the user that require immediate attention. It lists general information about the LEA, such as the number of schools, users, students, etc. There's a to-do list, which reminds LEA coordinator tasks that need to be done, such as setting up your administration dates. You can view counts of assigned and eligible students for each of the CAASPP and ELPAC tests under the Student Counts Per Test section. Your LEA student demographics, such as ethnicity, gender, economic status, are also listed. Additional sections in the My TOMS at a Glance tab include information about upcoming and in-progress testing windows, test status that includes percent started and percent completed by test, and scoring status information. As LEA coordinators, you have access to more information on this page than site coordinators. One helpful communication tool all coordinators can use is in the My TOMS notifications. With this tool, you can create and send notifications through TOMS to users who have various role types in your selected LEA or school. When staff log on to TOMS, they will be presented with these notifications. So this could be a helpful way to share reminders with your test administrators, test examiners, and site coordinators. You use this tool by navigating to the notifications button located on the top left side of the page under the My TOMS home header, and then selecting Create Notification. The text has a maximum of 255 characters, so it's a short message, and you can decide whether you want the system to send an email in addition to providing the notification in TOMS. Keep in mind, you will select your audience when creating a notification. So here's the thing though. If you're signed in as an LEA CAASPP coordinator, you will be able to choose the CAASPP roles that need to view the message. If you need to post that same message for ELPAC users, you will need to log in as an LEA ELPAC coordinator and select ELPAC roles accordingly. So think about it in terms of they're partitioned. So just because you send it out on the CAASPP side doesn't mean it automatically goes out on the ELPAC side, and vice versa. So once again, please think of it like they're partitioned. Here's a side-by-side comparison of some of the features of the LEA coordinator view and the test site coordinator view in TOMS at a Glance. They're not the same. Remember, we said earlier, LEA coordinators have role, and this visual, once again, just puts everything side by side. So LEA coordinators have access to a to-do list, student counts per test, student demographics, test window, test status, and student score report, or SSR status. Well, we also have access to crisis alert response system. We also refer to it as CARS. That's on the LEA coordinator side of the house. Now, when site coordinators log in, they'll have access to student counts per test, student demographics, and test status. Test site coordinators, once again, compared to you, cannot view the to-do list, test windows, SSR status, or the crisis alert response system. So if you get that as an LEA coordinator, just keep in mind that's not popping up on the site coordinator side of the house. Again, here's another side-by-side comparison of LEA ELPAC coordinator's view in TOMS versus the site ELPAC coordinator view. So LEA ELPAC coordinators have access to, once again, a to-do list, student counts per test, student demographics, test window, orders, test status by domain, student score report, SSR status, and THSS item scoring status by days past enrollment. That's the writing domain that we're talking about there. Site ELPAC coordinators have access to student counts per test, student demographics, test windows, test status by domain, and then THSS item scoring status by days past enrollment. And once again, that's for the writing domain. Test site coordinators, in comparison to you, once again, they can't view the to-do list, test window, or SSR status. This is actually my favorite part. Sorry to nerd out with everybody here. Now let's talk briefly about some of the available reports in TOMS for both CAASPP and ELPAC coordinators. The Reports tab provides access to all TOMS reports at both the LEA and site level. So what are some of those reports? Well, we have a test settings report that lists students and their assigned embedded and non-embedded resources, ensuring proper accessibility resources are assigned to students if they need them. Test assignments report that lists the test assignments for students in the LEA. User list report that lists all CAASPP and ELPAC users in the LEA with their details. Here's a hint, I use that. I copy it out, paste it into the upload template if I want to do a mass upload after we've gone over and cleaned it a little bit, of course, but it has everything already set in place. Once again, that was the user list report. STARS and appeals report. STARS stands for Security and Test Administration Incident Reporting System. So it's going to give you details about certain STARS incidents that have been submitted. STARS actually is going to be in depth in February. So if you're not signed up for it, you'll want to sign up for that February webinar. You're also going to have a report on security forms and remote administration status report. What do we mean by that? Well, that's going to list all signed test security agreements and affidavits with signing dates and indicates remote test administration status. Student score data files. Those provide student scores and demographic information for uploading into student information systems or other third-party systems that you might use to visualize assessment information. You also have student demographic reports. Those reflect what's in CalPads as of the afternoon the day before. I was going to say 5 o'clock, but I'm not actually 100% certain about the exact time that those are pulled, but it is the afternoon from the day before. Those student demographic reports, whatever's in CalPads, that's what's synced with TOMS. And you're going to have demographic records for all of your students that are enrolled in your organization. You're also going to have eligibility reports. Those show which high school students have already completed the California Science Test, or CAST, and California Alternate Assessment, or CAA for science tests. And those are available for the LEA or school level. I'm going to really step aside really quick on that one. So we've had a few districts that reached out, and the question really was, hey, is there an easy way for us to figure out in high school if a student has ever taken, the CAST or the CAA for science? Or do we have to go one by one? No, don't do that. Even if you didn't test the student and they tested in another organization, they came to you. If they've already completed the test, they will already appear in these reports. Highly recommend just going in, download these reports, and filters will be your best friend. You can filter for, hey, who hasn't, completed it yet, who has completed it. And it just makes it so much easier rather than trying to go one by one, trying to figure out, hey, did we test them or do we need to test them? After requesting a report, users will receive a notification email when it's ready to download. So it'll send you that reminder if you're like me, where you go over, you submit a report, and suddenly you hear something ding on the side and you start working on something else. That email will remind you, hey, your report's ready to go over, and go back and download. And so once again, didn't mean to nerd out with everybody here, but this is a really powerful section. These reports are great. And I know I saw a question about what might an audit look like? And remember, there's no right way to do it. There's no the way to do it. Here's just simply a way. So I'll give another example. I was in a district a couple of days ago, and we were going over and we were working on these particular reports, the student demographics reports. And it was all of the site coordinators for that district. And we went in, LEA coordinator downloaded the student demographic report for the whole LEA. And the individual site principals had gone in and they downloaded their site demographic reports because they have that available to them too. And as we were going over, we were looking through the data, and one of the principals went over and said, hey, that's not the grade level for this kid right here. What gives? And so that was just the opportunity to go over and say, hey, that's a great question. You know what? You may want to reach out to your CalPADS coordinator. Hey, it's early in the year. Great. We can go over, we can look deeper into it, or you're going to want to look deeper into it. So you can slowly get that resolved, get that fixed. But as Jadine said earlier, CalPADS coordinators, they are our best friends. We need to work really closely with them because this is one of those things where whatever we see in TOMS, that's what's reflected in CalPADS as of the afternoon before. And so once again, it's not the way to do it. It's just simply a way. It doesn't have to be anything super sophisticated. As long as we're going in and we're looking at that data, and if something doesn't make sense, it's going in and making sure we're fixing it. So just one way to do it. But that student demographics report is really powerful. It gives you who are your students that are special education, and is that accurate? Do we have students in there where it doesn't say CalPAD special education? Once again, that's one of those, maybe we need to go back, work with our teams in special education, our colleagues in special education, or our colleagues in CalPADS, and just come together and just say, oh my gosh, you know what? We see some missing students. We need to get this fixed. So we can go over and have clean, accurate data so we can actually assign any accommodations or tests if we need to update any test assignments, because that needs to be clean first. The other one that I want to point out really briefly is the security forms and remote administration status report. Those right there, sometimes when teachers are unable to administer a test, let's say that right now we're in the initial ELPAC season. Well, it is all year round, but it's really heavy right now. Teacher needs to go over and administer the test, but the test isn't showing up. Oh my gosh, why isn't it showing up? Well, it could be that they didn't sign the security affidavit when they logged into TOMS. And if they don't sign those affidavits, then in the test delivery system, the test won't appear as an option for the teachers to assign. So this is a great way to go in and just see, did the teacher sign it? Or did the test examiner or test administrator, did they sign the affidavit? And then what I also like to do at the end of the testing window is I download everything, just in case there's an audit the following year and we're asked to provide any of the affidavits. We have those saved. So that's something that I do way later on. I usually do it in June, because every year, once the system rolls over, those are gone and we don't have access to those. Just really great reports that live inside of the system. I don't know if you have any other reports, Jadine, that you love to go over and nerd out on and use.
I I think you hit the main ones, Joe, especially the security one, and I think you're coming up upon the eligibility report that you're getting to in just a minute. That's one of my faves, and then the new one for ELPAC specific, that criteria one is my
Ooh.
new fave.
Yes. Yeah, not to plug a report or anything, but if you're an ELPAC LEA coordinator, there's a brand new report. I think it's called, my gosh, I think it's a reclassification eligibility by criterion one, something like that. But when you log into that report, it will give you your list of students who were a level 4 on summative ELPAC, or they were a level 3 on summative alternate ELPAC and have yet to be reclassified. So really cool report. Our colleagues at ETS were really just excited with the really great reports that they've created. And we're really grateful for them for that. Okay, so we were talking about student test assignments. And so let's dig a little deeper with what we need to be working on. All right, so TOMS will automatically create student test assignments when applicable. For example, the majority of students will take the general assessments, such as Smarter Balanced for ELA or Mathematics in CAASPP, and the summative ELPAC. These assessments are the default test assignments. All students in grades 3 through 8 and grade 11 will have registrations for the Smarter Balance summative assessments for ELA and mathematics automatically created for them. You don't have to do anything. It's all based on grade level. All students in grade 5 and 8 will also have the California Science Test or CAASPP tests automatically created for them. They're automatically going to be eligible. All students in grade 12 who have not yet taken the CAASPP in high school will also have a registration created for them. All students with an English language acquisition status of English learner will be registered to take summative ELPAC. Students with the most significant cognitive disabilities on an active IEP may qualify for the California Alternate Assessments, or CAAs, or Summative Alternate ELPAC. These alternate test assignments must be made in TOMS at least 48 hours prior to testing by a coordinator. Please note that a student who is identified for the alternate assessment must take the alternate assessment in all subject areas, including the alternate ELPAC if applicable. In other words, test assignment will implement the Alt for One, Alt for All. In addition to the CAA, the LEA may manually add test assignments for the CAASPP for students in grades 10 or 11 and the California Spanish Assessment, or CSA, which is an optional assessment. There's a link to a document describing the process for high school CAASPP assignments in your resource guide. LEAs can choose to administer CAASPP to students in grade 10 or 11 who have not yet taken the high school science test. For detailed information on the process for assigning, once again, please refer to the link in your resource guide. An additional valuable resource is the alternate assessment decision-making tool, and that's really helpful for determining who might be eligible for an alternate assessment. There are two ways to add or remove test assignments to students in TOMS. Students can be assigned tests one at a time or in batches. Please note, test assignments should be configured at least 48 hours prior to testing. Directions for these processes can be found in the TOMS user guide, and that's available on the CAASPP and ELPAC website. A link has also been provided in your resource guide. And it's funny, thinking about test assignments, everybody, when you talk to different people, everybody does it so differently, and that's fine. It's a local context thing. I do it differently from my previous organization to where I am now. In this organization, I'm still an LEA coordinator here. We've done it before where in the beginning, I work with our special education team. They send me the list of SSIDs for our students that we know are going to be taking the alternate assessment. I batch upload all of those SSIDs, one big mass one. And then after a while, I don't do any more batch uploads. I just don't, I stop it, because then it can become a one-by-one thing. So it can look different. I happen to have a lot of students that are taking the California alternate assessments. We have a CELPA over here, so it's going to look different for me. If you're a district and you only have, let's say, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 students and they're taking an alternate assessment, maybe you want to just do the one-by-one. It might just be faster, because sometimes when we use a batch upload, sometimes we have to do some cleaning of the data before it can actually be uploaded in and accepted. So sometimes the one-by-one is a little faster. Once again, it's a local thing. Whatever works best for you, that's the right way to do it. Another feature within TOMS involves configuring test windows for TOMS for the CAASPP assessments. Some tests, like the summative ELPAC and the CAA for science, they already have a preset testing window that can't be changed. For instance, the CAA for science does not require a testing window to be set up, as the 3 embedded performance tasks are intended to be administered throughout the year shortly after the student receives the relevant instruction. The CAA I'm blending assessment and science. The CAA for science testing window, that opens up on Tuesday, September 16th, and it ends on the last day of your instructional calendar, whichever, or June 30th, whichever comes first. Additionally, the summative ELPAC has a pre-established testing window of February 1st through May 31st, 2026, and that's the case every year. Summative ELPAC is always February 1st to May 31st. So let's get a little deeper into the three types of windows. There are three key terms that you'll need to remember when it comes to scheduling CAASPP testing. Available testing windows, test administration windows, and testing schedules. Sometimes these three terms are used interchangeably, so I wanted to spend some time talking about each and how they relate to each other. So let's start with the available testing window. So once again, the available testing window is the longest period of the three. The available testing window is set through CAASPP regulations, and it's based on the percentage of completed instructional days. Per the regulations, the available testing window shall begin on the day on which 66% of the school's annual instructional days have been completed and may continue up to and including the last day of instruction for the year for most CAASPP tests. Within the available testing window, LEAs establish test administration windows, which are sometimes referred to as testing periods. That's the one that we all go in and we set. Depending on school calendars and their circumstances within the LEA, LEAs may select up to 6 administration windows within the available testing window. What do we mean by that? So if me, inside of my organization, remember I have schools over here too. My 3 different sites that I have over here, I can create 3 separate windows for each of my sites, because I might have one where they're going to say, we want to open up in March. Great. I have another one where they're going to say, I absolutely do not want to open up in March. I want mine to open up mid-April. And I might have another where they're going to say, we want to open up at the end of April. We can create 3 separate windows and then connect each site to those special windows. Maybe you have high schools where you know they are going to test earlier. That's what we had in my old organization. We had testing windows for high schools. They opened up earlier. My elementaries went over and said, absolutely not. We don't want to be testing that early. So I had to create separate testing windows for each and then connect, whether they were high schools, whether they were elementaries, middle schools, or even alternative schools. You can create up to 6. That way you can go over and customize for each one. CAASPP coordinators will enter these windows into TOMS, identifying the dates the summative CAASPP tests will be available to schools within your LEA. Within the LEA's test administration window that, once again, we put into TOMS, comes the school test site schedules. Now, unlike the test administration windows, these are not loaded into TOMS. These are just kept locally. All right, so we have one last thing to do before we get to our questions, and that's to assign you homework. I promise you, we're not assigning busy work, but instead we want to focus you on some tasks that can help you with your next steps. So first, if you haven't already, download the coordinator checklists. We can't emphasize how detailed these documents are and how helpful they are for new coordinators. And I'm also going to say for old coordinators. And I shouldn't have said old. I feel like I'm aging myself here. But they're really helpful. It doesn't matter how many years you've done it. We all print them out. And they just help us with the, oh my gosh, am I forgetting anything? Let me look at that checklist. That checklist is going to remind us just in case we accidentally, oversee something. The second is related to your CAASPP admin windows. We want you to research your test windows from last year. What is your LEA process for determining your testing windows? If your LEA doesn't have a process, then you should develop one. Do you need to add more windows? Or maybe thinking about extending the length of testing windows, or maybe even reducing them. Maybe they were too big last year. It's one of those things that you want to go over and you want to just research. And then lastly, learn the processes of your LEA and what procedures are in place for periodic data audits. So it's funny, we actually kind of bunched up pretty far back here. So right now we want to get to Q&As right now. And so I'm going to turn this over to Jadine right now. Is there anything that's popping up right now in the Q&A that you see? And I'm going to start reading some too right now.
Okay. Actually, this is one I'm not quite sure, Joe. So Does starting the CAA for science lock in the demographics for the ELA, for the LEA, the same as it does for Smarter Balance ELA and math? And I'm not confident on that one. So I would say maybe check with your LEA success agent,
Mhm.
because I don't want to give you the wrong answer on that one.
Yeah, I would recommend reaching out to, our success agents. That's a great plug. So to find our success, is that a source guide? I believe it is, right?
The success agent, yes, I believe it's on, you know what? You can go to the CAS. I did this just yesterday, the CAASPP ELPAC website, and in the search bar, you can search LEA success agent and find out who your person is.
Yeah, Joe and Jadine, it is on the first page. It's the CASP and ALPAC contact, and it's the success agent lookup and the California Technical Assistance Center, Caltech.
Great, thank
So it
you.
is there.
Beautiful. Paul going over and thinking ahead, right? Going over and getting it on that first page. And I apologize. I think we're actually bunching up to the end. And I'm looking at all the answers. You answered them beautifully, JD, and as I'm pulling up the Q&A right now. I think it's actually time for us to go over and send it back to Paul.
Yeah. Okay, well, wonderful. Well, thank you, Jadine and Joe. It looked like you guys were answering questions along the way, so really appreciate that. Okay, everyone. Well, thank you so much for submitting your questions and comments and what have you. We really appreciate that. And before we wrap it up, we like to recommend some upcoming training opportunities. And the link to register for these trainings are in the resource guide. First, we have the upcoming new coordinator training. And the next one is September 18th, and the topic is going to be accessibility. And then on October 16th, the topic's going to be practice test, training tests, and interim assessments. And then November 20th, we're going to cover preparing for testing. Also want to call out that we have the coffee sessions, and these are virtual coffee sessions hosted by CDE and ETS, and they offer opportunities for LEA staff to ask questions and get answers about assessments, trainings, resources, and more. And they're held monthly for most of the year. And I believe the next one is scheduled for September 9th. Also want to call out the California Assessment Conference. This will be the 6th annual CAC, and it's going to take place November 12th through the 14th at the Riverside Convention in Riverside, California. This conference is designed specifically for classroom educators, site administrators, assessment coordinators, and other education staff. So don't want to miss out on this opportunity. Help us spread the word, and registration is open. So there is a link that will take you to the CAC website.
Can I add one thing really quick, Paul? Sorry,
Sure.
it's a shameless plug. I just added the link for the fall convenings for new coordinators that you were just talking about, that are coming up in September, I believe. So
Yeah.
I just put that into the chat, the direct link for it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joe. All right. And then if you haven't already, please sign up for the Assessment Spotlight emails, and you'll find subscription instructions in your resource guide. Also, if you want to keep up with CDE, you can follow them on X at CDE Assessments, and you can also connect with the CDE on Instagram, and you'll see links in the resource guide. Alrighty, and that brings us to the end. We hope that the information we shared today was helpful and timely. As always, we want to remind you that you are not alone in this work. You can reach out through the networks of coordinators in similar roles throughout the state. Joe mentioned and Jadine both mentioned the LEA success agents, and you always have staff at the CDE ready and available to answer your questions. Also, there's going to be a post-training evaluation. If you could please give us a couple of minutes of your time and provide some feedback, we would appreciate it. This helps us improve as well. And with that, on behalf of CDE, my colleagues Jadine and Joe, we want to thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you at the next webinar, and hope you have a good afternoon, everyone. Take good care.